questions that are life questions, why do we exist? That's too far-fetched, but I come from literature background, so somewhere these questions are very inherent in the way I've done my academics. I read this book for the first time about 10 years ago, and trust me, it's not 1 year that's passed in which I've not picked up this book, because there are very few books that every time you read, you get a different perspective, There's such a wide horizon of that particular book that every time you read, there's a different lesson that you learn. Waiting For Godot is actually one of those books. To give a background of this book, there are two very interesting things I'd like to tell you. There's a thing called myth of Sisyphus. It's a Greek myth. It comes from Greek mythology. What that story says is that Sisyphus is punished by gods, and there's a boulder that he's asked to roll up on a mountain, only to see it fall back. And then he takes it up again on the mountain. It again falls back. He takes it up again. And it continues. It's an eternal punishment that he's got. A lot of critiques, a lot of thinkers, philosophers compare that to a human life. That's what all of us do. We get up in the morning, brush our teeth, get dressed, go to office, work, eat, come back, sleep. Again we get up in the morning, brush our teeth, go to work. So it's literally this monotonous routine that we have. Samuel Beckett, as per me, is one of the geniuses. And I was asked this question once by my friend that if there's one person who you want to meet who's perhaps dead, has to be Samuel Beckett, because this guy is so shrewd and so cruel that till now, he's never revealed who Godot really is. The spoiler alert, there is no Godot in the play. You never see who Godot is. There are numerous interpretations, and I think if there's one book that's been studied over and over again, is Waiting For Godot, because the moment you read this book, you want to find out who is Godot. Is that God? Is that happiness? Is that contentment? Just to kind of tell the summary of the play, it was after World War II. There was this entire school of dramatics that came into play, which was known as theatre of absurd. What that did was, when we go to see a theatre or a drama, we'd want to see very beautifully dressed characters. We see a beginning, we see an end, we see a plot, we see dialogues, we see a story. There is none of it in theatre of absurd. The moment the curtain is unveiled, you see two people standing in rags. That was the first shocker for people in Paris. When they saw it for the first time, they were so used to seeing grand sets that they couldn't realize it's a play which starts like that. It has four people. The characters' names are Latimer, Estragon, Pozzo, and Lucky. There's something very interesting about the names. All of these four names come from very different etymologies. Latimer is a Russian etymology, Estragon is a French etymology, Lucky is an American etymology, and Pozzo is an Italian etymology. The moment the characters are introduced to you, Beckett wants to tell you that, he's talking about something which is very universal. He's not talking about one nationality, or he's not talking about one particular continent. The play starts with the line, "Nothing to be done." It is all about hopelessness. It's all about monotony. There are these four people who want to attempt suicide, but they can't attempt suicide because of the difficulty of logistics of attempting suicide. They want to get separated from each other, but they can't get separated because they feel they're too dependent on each other. It has no story. It's with someone. Estragon wants to fit into his boots, and he's not able to. He takes Latimer's help. So there's a lot of interdependence that's shown, and it's beautiful because he gives so much of importance to a thing like a hat, a thing like a boot, a thing like a watch. And maybe what Beckett's trying to say is that we're all really trapped in some very minuscule things, on everyday practices, everyday routines, and probably we've forgotten why we're here, what's the purpose of our existence. There's a very interesting part in the play in which Pozzo, he loses his watch. And he's trying to find his watch, and it's really absurd because he says, "I can hear a ticking sound." And then Latimer says, the ticking sound that you're hearing is that of your heart. It just sounds so humorous, but it is not, because Beckett is trying to say that, there is a time, there is a clock in your body, and you need to get away from this worldly timeline and concentrate on who you are. it's a play which is very circular. It starts with nothingness. Latimer and Estragon are waiting under a tree and they want to meet Godot. And then there's a boy who comes in and he says that Godot's not going to come today. They start questioning, are we standing at the right spot? Is it the right time of the day when we're waiting for Godot? So it's almost like they're waiting for someone and that someone's never going to turn up. Through the end of the play, they keep waiting for Godot and he never comes. But there are a lot of critiques that say that there is an endurance in the play. They never give up. So there's a school of thought which is called existential philosophy. And if you read their literature, existential philosophy always closes with an ending saying and telling you that it is all futile. But Beckett doesn't do that. Till the end, through the end, Beckett doesn't try to preach you. He doesn't try to tell you that, you know what, all of this is for nothing. He just leaves it at a point where he wants you to figure out what you want to make of your existence. What is the purpose that you want to discover for yourself? Towards the end of the play, Pozzo goes blind. And that also has a very deep meaning. It perhaps means that Pozzo's way of dealing with all of this complexity of world is that he wants to give a blind eye to the tangibles of the world. If I have to personally do that one takeaway and why I read this book and I pick this book at least once a year is those 1 or 2 days. It's a pretty flimsy book, just a few pages. It just breaks you away from everything that you've been concerned with, muddled with. There must be this thing that you're thinking about your EMIs, you're thinking about your career options, you're thinking about the monies that you have, the credit cards. All of that goes away when you're reading this play, because when you're reading this play, you realize that you're part of a very, very big plan, and you're playing just a very small role. And in this play, this guy Pozzo, he almost carries the guy Lucky through a rope. It's almost like a slave that he's carrying him. And a lot of critics say that Pozzo has been shown to be a god because because Pozzo in the play tells him that he's so helpless and this is how the society is. He can't do much. That's perhaps a lot of thinkers say. It's Beckett's way of saying that even the god's helpless in the condition that we have. So it's one play which has no story, but every line is a beautiful linguistic play. Every line will make you think. And I'm not kidding, but when I was reading this book, it just felt like those flimsy pages needed to be chewed so much. So after every page, you would want to take a pause. And for all of those of you who want to dwell into the deeper questions of life, the deeper meaning of life, I think this is the only book that you need to read. As per me, my interpretation of Godot is not God. I have read the play multiple times, and I think Godot is hope. I think what Latimer and Estragon are waiting to meet is hopefulness, coexistence. So personally, I after 10 years of studying philosophy, literature, I think the biggest understanding that can change your life is when you learn that coexistence is possible. Good and bad can coexist. Right and wrong can coexist. I'm an introvert, but I can coexist with an extrovert. So I think this play, to me, is a lot about that hope. You hope that you'll make it through life. You hope that you'll make through all the odds, all the complexities, all the confusions of life. I think that's what's beautiful about the play. It has no lesson in the end. It has no meaning in the end. Please do not look out for answers, because this play is just going to ask you questions. But trust me, when you read those questions, the whole journey that will start in your mind to look out for those answers, that is what the most beautiful part about this play is. Happy reading. And again, I'm a very big Samuel Beckett fan. I hope I turn you into his fan as well. Thank you so much.